Hey guys, Jim here. I'm going to be doing something rather special here. I'm actually quite honored to be able to do this and present this to you in this format. What I'm going to give you the opportunity to see is a sneak peek of the open auction bid knife for Blade Show 2014 from Mr. David Broadwell. Now, for those that already know Mr. Broadwell, you guys know that his most sought-after model is the Arachnophobia, which is what I have here in my hot little hands. And this particular variation is, well, it's extraordinary. It really exemplifies what David does so well. He creates art that happens to work out as a functional knife. Now I'm going to kind of give you some 360-degree views here before I get more in-depth with the knife, because I want you to kind of soak in all of the incredible details that this has. There is not an angle that you view this knife from that there isn't something special and ornate going on. Everything about this is amazing. It is a true art knife. But I think it's an art knife that somebody could actually use and carry and actually get some enjoyment out of. Now, the only thing that really prohibits it from being carried by many people is the fact that it doesn't have a pocket clip, but that's really common for an art knife anyway. But I can guarantee that, well, not guarantee, but I can make a strong assumption that if you are the winning bidder on this knife, that you could probably talk David into making you a pocket clip for it. So, now, not only is this a special model because it is one of the most sought-after knives that David makes, but it's also got a unique locking system to it that, I gotta tell you, is ingenious. It's not too indifferent from the axis lock. It does operate in a similar basic fashion, but it engages in a completely different way. So let's get this open and show you just how beautiful this knife really is. Oh yeah, that is really, really sexy. We'll start here at the blade. Now this is a compound grind, or as some makers might call it, a duplex grind. So you'll have one grind here, and you'll see it's a little harder to make out in Damascus, but there is a noticeable jump here to the forward grind, and then a very prominent swedge up top. This is all Chad Nichols stainless Damascus, and very, very sexy Damascus at that. And what David's done here is he's created a two-tone finish with the flats here being different than the bevel and the top swedge by simply scrubbing out the etch on the flats. It's not a major, huge jump, but it definitely is. You'll see that the bevels are a richer, deeper black, as is the swedge, than the flats of the blade. I love this profile. This is gorgeous. This is probably one of the most beautiful knives I've ever had a chance to sample. Now we get up here and you'll notice the custom-made thumb stud. It's also made from the same Damascus. So one of the great things about this knife is when the knife is closed, that thumb stud really nearly disappears. It's beautifully contoured. As you can tell, it's completely custom. There's nothing off the shelf there. And we'll look at the pattern in the spine of the blade. Going to that harpoon swedge. Beautiful symmetry to this blade from left side to right side, just beautifully done. Now you'll also notice as we're looking at the spine that you're seeing some blue coming through in the titanium liners. He's actually selected different areas of the knife to do a little bit of anodizing. You know, the sides, the flats there are done in a rich satin. The front edge, you'll see a little gold come through, and then it goes to blue. You'll see the file work done there on the back side of the back spacer. And then it comes around here, and this is really, really nice and smooth. So you're thinking this is just titanium, but when you look at it from the side, oh, he's done a lot of texturing work in there. It makes it look like it might be Damascus. However, I do believe, if I'm not mistaken, that that is going to also be titanium. Just really, really textured. Come around here to the back side. You'll see that anodizing coming through on the holes. We can now see it on the interior of the liners. And here's where you start to notice the biggest difference between this and most of the knives that you've handled. There's no lock, at least not visible from this side. What he's using is what he's calling the DB lock, which stands for deadbolt lock. And it really does slide in place like the deadbolt on your front door. And what you're going to do to disengage the lock is very simply pull back on this Damascus lock release. And when you do that, the blade will drop free when it doesn't hit your carbon fiber. Very simple, very smooth. Wonderful engagement. Now what that lock is actually doing, it's running on a spring tension system so that the button will return when you go to unlock the blade. And it's running on a system inset into this backspacer. The backspacer actually dips down in here. So the lock is going to engage on the blade right here. So when the blade opens, the lock has engaged it right there. See if I can get this to focus. There we go. And then when the blade is closed, it's going to engage in that notch right there. So the lock is actually going to work in both directions, and it serves as the detent as well. Come on, camera. There we go. Now visually, this is an incredible piece. You've got a monster-sized pivot here. The pivots are stainless steel with textured centers, and he has hand-spun the outer rims. So you've got a nice two-tone effect there. Look at the incredible detail work that he puts into his knives. I can't even imagine how long it took just to texturize that. And what I love here are all the geometric shapes. You obviously got your triangular shaped lock release, and then you have this beautiful shape to the marble carbon fiber. And this is really, really, really high-grade marble carbon fiber. Marble carbon fiber is not easy to get, and I do know that Blacksite, who was the originator of marble carbon fiber, is done with it. They're not making it anymore. So it's going to become harder and harder and harder to get your hands on. I do believe somebody else did kind of pick up the baton on that, and somebody else is making it now. I don't believe it looks the exact same. So let me give you a nice close-up shot of that. This is one of those knives that you almost don't know what to say when you're holding it. There's so much beauty here. There's so much art and so much precision that it almost feels like a dream. I mean, this is a true grail-worthy knife. This is several thousands of dollars that I'm holding in my hands right now. And every detail was thought of. There's not an unfinished part of this knife. You even look around the back side of the blade where it's all mirror polished. Now, one of the most amazing things is the action on this knife. It is running on bearings. It's running on a cage bearing system. Actually, I think he's using roller thrust bearings on this. Oh, it's incredible. When you release this lock, and you can also, by the way, deploy the knife like that as well by releasing that lock if you have good enough timing. I have limited space in which I'm doing it here. There we go. And when you're not sitting here trying to keep in frame on a tight frame on your camera, it's very easy to whip it out and use the lock for that. And a lot of us have done that with compression locks on our Spydercos, have done that with Axis lock on our Benchmates. So it's going to be that same type of system where you're pulling against that tension, against that spring tension. And once you've released this, the blade swings completely freely. Once you've disengaged that lock, and you can actually hear the bearings rolling across the Damascus. I don't know if my microphone quite picks it up, but I can actually hear it myself. This is absolutely one of the smoothest actions I've ever felt. And that's especially surprising when you consider the fact that this is a very, very rich patterned Damascus. That means that same pattern is back here as well on the blade. And whether you're using washers or you're using various types of different bearing systems, you're always going to feel that rolling back and forth. And you will on this. When you release that lock, you can feel the steps of that blade. But it doesn't matter because it is completely effortless in the opening and the closing. Now you'll notice something else that you might be thinking about that's missing on the knife. You're not seeing any blade stops. The thumb stud is not acting as a blade stop. You don't have an external blade stop back here. And you're wondering, does it have an internal blade stop? No, actually the back spacer, not only is it functioning as the support structure for the knife, also working as part of the lock mechanism, but it's also functioning as your blade stop as well. So he's taking one piece and doing three completely different jobs with it. And that's the beauty of the innovation that we're seeing from very few makers out there. I just love this action. It is absolutely effortless. It takes nothing to open and close this knife. It's simply stunning, and I hope you get the chance, if you're going to Atlanta, if you're going to the Blade Show, I hope you get the chance to handle this knife, see this knife in person, and be as amazed with it as I am. I haven't told David this yet because we haven't had a chance to talk since I received the knife today. But yeah, I am going to be bidding on this knife. And I'm sure it's going to take a couple of bids. And I'm very certain that the knife is going to bid up higher than I might be willing to go. But damn it, I've got to put a shot in there. I've got to have something like this in my collection. This is completely different from everything else I've ever owned. And what I really dig about David is the fact that first and foremost, he's an artist. He didn't begin making knives until 1981. He's been an artist, he's been a machinist, and he doesn't make just knives. He makes jewelry, he makes pens. He does some incredible work. You need to visit his website, which is, I think it's broadwellstudios.com. And if I'm incorrect about that, I will put that down in the description. It's been a long time since I've had a chance to review one of David's knives, so I may have forgotten that small detail there. But he made his first knife in 1981, and he quit his full-time job as a machinist in 89 to pursue becoming a knife maker full-time, and he's done it ever since. And he's done it with a particular degree of class and style, and he's able to blend with the Arachnophobia, with the Techniques especially, a practical carry solution to an art knife. It's really, really hard to look at your typical art knife maker and say, oh, I love your knives, I love carrying your knives, you've given me a practical knife in which to carry that happens to look beautiful. We don't get a chance to say that very often. And with David, I think that even though this is a true art knife, it is an absolute jaw-dropping stunner. He has provided to us something that could actually be carried. You've got a stainless Damascus blade. You're probably never going to hurt that blade. And by the way, the edge on here is very, very fine. I'm obviously not going to do any cut testing with it. This is not my knife in which to do so. This is going to be your knife if you're bidding on it. I don't think that you want to see me doing all kinds of goofy stuff with it. And I do have to thank David for entrusting me with this amazingly beautiful knife to do this review. We were actually talking one night, and he says, hey, I'm building this knife for the Blade Show. Would you like to review it? I'm like, would I? And I didn't even know what it was. And then he's like, it's going to be an Arachnophobia. And I said, well, I absolutely have to. I've been in love with the Arachnophobia since I saw Brad Southard's Arachnophobia. And that's when I learned you'll never own an Arachnophobia. It's just that difficult to obtain. So to get this opportunity to play with this and share it with you as a sneak peek is amazing. But also to know that we all have a chance to be able to own this at the Blade Show. He's going to be auctioning it on Friday and Saturday, and he's going to have the the auction paperwork out there. Bid, man, bid like crazy, because not only are you going to get something that's beautiful, not only are you going to get something that has one of the smoothest actions in the entire world. I mean, the closest thing that I have in my personal collection to this degree of smoothness is my Stan Wilson non-flipper flipper. And, that was, those are $2,500. I mean, you have to pay that kind of premium money to get an action like this. There's no way that this is going to translate on camera the way that it feels in the hand. There's just something truly remarkable about this. And you can watch the lock as it disengages and re-engages. There it is, it's kind of breaking its detent And there, as it begins to make its way into full engagement. My favorite thing about this is the fact that you no longer have to put your finger or thumb in the way of your sharp blade. You're going to hold the knife like you would any other knife, especially if you're used to side opening automatics. You're used to kind of holding a knife like this to allow the blade to fly out. And then you're disengaging your lock. You don't even have to apply pressure. You don't even have to push down on it if you don't want to. Just a little tilt and let gravity do the work. So I really hope that we see this a little more often because it's a great safety feature as well. Listen, I don't care how careful you are with your knives. We've all done it. We've all dropped our knife onto our thumb, onto our thumbnail, and sighed that deep sigh of relief going, oh my God, I could have done something really horrible here. So I like the fact that you don't have to have your fingers in the way of the blade as they close. It doesn't hurt that it's got such a great design to it overall. It's got a great balance. I didn't really talk much about that because this is not an all titanium and carbon fiber knife like we're used to seeing in the tactical world. If this were, a tactical knife maker that's never built an art knife, this would be all titanium with the marble carbon fiber onlays. Instead, you've got stainless steel in your pivot. You've got some weight balancing out here when the knife is open or when the knife is closed. There's a particular heft to it. It doesn't look heavy. This is about as slim as a typical Brian tie knife. And anybody that's handled any of Brian's knives know, they don't weigh anything. They're super lightweight. This is quite a substantial handful. It feels like you're holding something of quality. It feels like you're holding something impressive because, well, you are. Wow, just the details throughout this entire knife. I can't stop looking at it. I have had this out all day, very carefully, of course. Notice I'm not wearing any of my rings like I normally do. I'm not wearing a watch. I'm not wearing anything. I have rinsed my hands down. You'll see I've got a lot of dry spots. I rinsed my hands down after washing them, rinse them down with alcohol so I have no oils left in my fingers. Because yes, even though it's stainless Damascus, that means nothing. It's still, you're still going to be able to rust, pit, corrode, that type of thing. So make sure you're taking care of it. It's just going to be a lot more corrosion resistant than a high carbon steel. But this is the kind of knife that you almost feel like you should go through some sort of preparatory regiment before you're able to handle it. It's special. It's something that most of us will never get a chance to own a knife like this. And maybe you've never had an interest in an art knife in the past. Hopefully seeing this up close and personal will change your mind just a little bit. That doesn't mean you're going to be running out and buying a fantasy hobbit kind of knife or anything. It's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about a maker like David that will blend the beauty of an art knife with a certain degree of practicality. Is this going to be your batoning knife? No. Is this going to be your camping knife? No. Is it something that you could carry on a daily basis with you to work or wherever, as long as you're not, doing like hardcore work with knives all day, and be able to pull it out and do light EDC tests with it, maybe a little bit of food prep, cutting paper, cutting down cardboard, little things like that? Absolutely. This is not a delicate knife, and you'll know that when you feel it in your hand. It's a sizable knife. It's got some heft to it. It only looks like it's delicate. And I got to tell you, I am mesmerized when I take a look at this up close. That astounding pivot. The beautiful detailed work in the carbon fiber. He didn't just shape it, but it's contoured. It's milled. It's perfectly finished. You'll notice there are absolutely no voids in this carbon fiber. And the last few makers that I know of that got a hold of marble carbon fiber, they were pitching a fit, throwing shit across their shop, texting back and forth with me going, damn it, I would never buy this stuff again. I'm going to spend all day today and tomorrow just filling voids on my marble carbon fiber scales. Yet there's not a single void that my eye can pick up here. Notice that little rainbow effect coming through the edges of the titanium. It's subtle because you don't see that anodizing at any other angle. It's only when you tilt it at one certain angle. When you go this far, all you see is the blue. You don't see that rainbow effect. You tilt it this way, you allow the light to dance across it. There's a little rainbow hue of color coming up to gold that disappears as quickly as it appeared. This is almost like magic in the hand. So good luck to everybody attending Blade 2014. I will see you there, and I will definitely be at David's table at some point putting my bid in. And boy, would I love to be able to showcase this on my channel as a permanent part of my collection. I'm going to tell you though, David, if it's me, we're going to make a nice little clip for it. All right, guys, I'm out of here for now. Thank you so much, as always, for watching. Good luck on all of your Grail hunts. Everybody that's going to the Blade Show, it is sure to be an amazing event. I'll see you there.